Tom Brady leaves. They signed Cam Newton. Remember that? Remember the Cam Newton era?
Who was the backup?
Jarrett Stidham. So that's fun, right? They drafted Mac Jones. They trade Mac Jones. Bill Belichick leaves, finds Jordan Hudson. Drake Maye was hired. Drake Maye was fired. They draft Drake Maye. And for all of that, back in the Super Bowl, I am your party host, Joe Rivera, and along with me, as always, is one of the preeminent bald knowers at USA Today Sports, and that's Chris Boom Baca. Boom, greetings from snowy New Jersey. You got a little look at that firsthand yesterday in Denver, where you witnessed the Patriots taking the AFC Championship home back to Foxborough, and now there were two, right? We got to look at the Super Bowl. Mike versus Mike, Sam Darnold redemption story. We're just packed with the narratives. Lots of fun entering Super Bowl 60.
Yeah, no. Look, if you gave me 1,000 guesses at the start of this season that we would have the New England Patriots facing the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 60, I don't think I would have gotten it. Not in one of my 1,000 guesses, but I guess that's only fitting for a season that's been kind of unlike one that we've ever seen, that's been pretty unpredictable, that's had some real highlights, lowlights, controversies. These two teams, I think, in my opinion, are the most deserving down the stretch, and it's a worthy Super Bowl matchup that I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think so, Boom. I think it's fair, you know me living the gimmick as a Jets fan, and this is a battle of Sam Darnold, the promised prince who's gone on to greener pastures, versus the hated rivals in the New England Patriots. And some people are wondering who I'm rooting for, and I'm rooting for the giant meteor to wipe us all out. I don't have any rooting interest in this one much, but what are your thoughts on this Super Bowl matchup before we break down the championship games, Boom?
Well, I do want to circle back to the whole Darnoldness of this for you. Actually, let's just go there now. I'll give you a breakdown next, but like, you as a Jets fan, are you happy for Sam? Is this something where like you're hurt because it's why wasn't it us? Why did you figure it out away from us? Or yeah, again, like, are you pleased for the guy because he seems to be a relatively upstanding citizen who was maybe dealt a bad hand in New York?
Yeah, but I could spend an entire podcast on this alone, really. I mean, we won't, but I think the bottom line here for me is this. I'm happy for Sam as the person, as the player. It's a path to the Super Bowl, a path to stardom, unlike which we've never really seen before, right? I mean, everybody wants to rag on the Jets, but they forget he also played with the Panthers and the 49ers. And I understand that was just a backup stint, but then he goes to Minnesota and he has a great year that puts him on the map, and like, oh yeah, well, the Jets are going to get clowned for that, so whatever. But I think looking back at it, Darnold just wasn't good with the Jets too. Like, and I understand they didn't put him in position to succeed, and I get that side of it, and to that I'm very empathetic. But at the same time, I don't care what coach you have. It could be you and me coaching offense, Boom. If you're throwing into triple coverage, no coach is teaching that, right? So there was that. There was the timeline of the quarterback and wanting to reset the timeline with the regime that came in with Robert Saleh and Joe Doug. So like, there's a lot there with Sam. Again, I'm happy for him as a player. It's really something to watch because you really don't see quarterbacks move on from their first stop or their second stop or their third stop or their fourth stop and suddenly become this good. So good for Sam. You know, I'm not necessarily rooting for him in this situation. I'm not rooting against him, but we'll see if he can exercise the demons when he faces the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said there, it's a testament to resilience, I think, and just believing in yourself and oneself, and also relying on your God-given talent. You know, he's a gifted thrower of the football. When you're put in advantageous situations like he found in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, even going back to when he was a backup on the Super Bowl team with the San Francisco 49ers, I remember sitting down with Brian Griese, the quarterback's coach, who said that all Sam needed was a little stability. He's found that at his last couple stops. And,
and it's no surprise, too, Boom, that when I was watching Sam back then, I said, this guy obviously is not going to work with the Adam Gase offense, but where he would be a really good fit is with Kyle Shanahan in that offense. And then you look at who his offensive coordinator is now with Clint Kubiak, and a guy who's famously comes from the Shanahan branch, the Shanahan tree, with running that offense, that scheme there. So, again, match made in heaven. Good for Sam. Good for Sam.
Exactly. And then bringing it back to the Super Bowl matchup itself, the one thing I was thinking about going to bed last night, waking up this morning, is kind of how, the two head coaches, the two mics, like that's going to be a whole thing for 2 weeks. Get your puns off, get your jokes off, everybody. Bring your best ones to media night. We're looking forward to it. Not really, please don't. But like these are two leaders who believe very strongly in the idea of a program, like blending this college philosophy of like, yeah, it's a program. And I think about the video that the Seahawks shared of McDonald's first team meeting when he's like, we have a great program for you guys, really excited. It's a word that Vrabel uses all the time when he's talking about how he structures things and his organizational philosophy. So no, it's not surprising in the sense that these two teams are meeting in the Super Bowl because this is the vision. This is a holistic approach. And when you put talented leaders of men who also, deputize their lieutenants and hire the right staffs and bring in the right people, and we'll get into these matchups and break this down all the more. But, that's how you get to the mountaintop, right? That's how you get to Super Bowl 60. So that's just my main themes when I'm looking at this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely, Boom. And it's interesting, and I understand the Broncos are facing a level of adversity that they didn't see entering the AFC Championship game when you lose Bo Nix. But, everybody talks about offense, right? Offense, but two coaches are in the Super Bowl come from defensive backgrounds, right? So it's like, I mean, all the while, like, yes, offense is still the soup du jour in the NFL, and that'll always be the case with the way that offenses are favored when it comes to the rule book and the things you can do in offensive player. I get that, but at the end of the day, just find me a good coach. Like that's what matters more than anything. Just find a guy who knows how to coach a football team. And I think programs are, that's the way that you build it, right? That's the way that you envision it. Like you said, the holistic approach from the top down. It's not just about, oh, we just want to put points on the board. Let's develop guys. Let's be teachers in the room. We hear that a lot. We've heard that from John Harbaugh recently. Like, let's be a teacher. That's what coaches are. They're teachers more than anything else. So, again, it's impressive to see what Mike Macdonald has done in his second year in Seattle. It's incredibly impressive to see Mike Vrabel. I mean, who could have seen this coming, right? Like, again, you want to talk about matches made in heaven, going back to New England to coach them up. So, good for those guys. Looking forward to the Super Bowl. But, Boom, we got to break down. I want to start here with the AFC Championship game. And again, you were in the building yesterday when you saw this. To take a quote from the late great Denny Green here, I think Jarrett Stidham is who we thought he was, right? Like I think we just want to start there. I understand that, again, I've said before I like the narratives, but Jarrett Stidham is even in the first half when the conditions, Tony Romo's favorite word, were in his favor. He was missing guys late. He was throwing behind guys. He didn't look exactly sharp, which, listen, that's who Jarrett Stidham was, right? And the Patriots didn't look great offensively against a really, really good Broncos defense. It was really the story of Drake Maye's legs making the plays when he needed to. But what was your biggest takeaway from the AFC Championship game, Boom?
The entire game changed on that 4th and 1 for the Broncos when Sean Payton decided to go for it and not kick the field goal to go up 10-0, and instead Pats take over and they're able to tie it later in the first half and win on a field goal later on, and that's the ball game. Sean really wanted those 3 points later. Hindsight's 2020. I know that yesterday was maybe a tough day for the take the points crowd and the math nerds. It was contentious online there for a second, because we'll also talk about the end of the Rams Seahawks game too, I'm sure. But that's kind of the turning point for me. The Patriots kind of knew it right then and there. Stidham, I don't want to put too much stock into, breaking down his game yesterday. Like you said, he was super shaky throughout the entire thing. He never looked comfortable to me, aside from the 2-play sequence when he hit Marvin Mims, who inexplicably got behind Christian Gonzalez in the Pats secondary for that 52-yard gain, I think it was. And then it caught everybody by surprise so much that they had to call timeout. Like, he was trying to go quick, I think, and I guess the call wasn't coming in from the sidelines, but everybody was so rattled by it that the Broncos had to burn a timeout right there. And then they came back, scored their touchdown on the next play, and that was it for that offense. So, I'm going to blame Sean Payton real quick, just because that decision is one thing, but you look at just the totality of the offense. Who's he running the ball with, man? You have two all pros on your offensive line. These people move guys. I thought that there was a lot more meat on the bone than the backs were able to get yesterday against that Patriots defense, which played really well, against a solid, not even solid is the right word, like a fantastic Broncos offensive line. And Peyton even said, he's like, I thought our run plan was really good. So he needs to figure out his weapons in the backfield. And I don't know if it's something where he's like, oh, we throw to pass because of the quick game with Bo and this and that. But you got to run the football, man, especially in January. How many times is this season going to end in January because his team couldn't run the ball?
Right. Yeah, and I think there's a few good takeaways you had there, Boom. First and foremost, it all starts in the trenches, right? And watching that game yesterday, especially in the first half, it just felt like the Broncos' offensive line just wasn't having a good day. It was very unlike them, I think, in a lot of ways, giving up pressure right up the middle, looking like they were lost on run assignments. It just wasn't a good look. And, the Peyton thing, I was watching in real time, and there's obviously two schools of thought. Number one, take the points, right? Kick the ball, take the points, you move on. Go up 10 points to nothing, let your defense go to work, right? The other side of it is, how many opportunities do you think you're going to get in the red zone with Jarrett Stidham? I think that's kind of the mindset there too. Like against the Patriots defense, which we know is good, with a backup quarterback, which didn't look great, but you're in that situation. Maybe you go up 14, you give yourself a little bit of breathing room, unleash the hounds a little bit on Drake Maye, a little bit more, you see where you go. So needless to say, I think to your point, everybody's calling it out. In that situation, take the points. Like, you don't know when you're going to be in position. Well, Lutz had problems kicking the ball yesterday. We saw that. The elements played into that, obviously. Just in totality, like you said, I think you look at that decision with Sean Payton and say, you know what? Maybe that wasn't the right call in the moment. It turned out to not be the right call at all for the rest of their Super Bowl hopes, I guess.
Yeah, and for the Broncos, you also have to, like the other teams in the AFC, this postseason is a wasted opportunity, especially with the defense that you had. The Patriots, I think, have like less than 60 points through 3 games here to make the damn Super Bowl.
Right.
That's insane. Like, if you're an offensive coach on one of these 3 teams, you really got to be kicking yourself. And, I guess if you're the offensive coach on the Chargers, you don't really have a job. You lost your job because of it. So
yeah, and you look at some of the stats that are coming out of it, and we'll talk about the Patriots now. It's 18 points per game this season is like the lowest mark of any team to make the Super Bowl in like X amount of years, if ever. It's just kind of crazy to think about. And I just want to run down the timeline of events here, Boom, real quick. So Tom Brady leaves. They signed Cam Newton. Remember that? Remember the Cam Newton era?
Who's the backup?
Jarrett Stidham. So that's fun, right? They drafted Mac Jones. They trade Mac Jones. Bill Belichick leaves, finds Jordan Hudson. Gerard Mayo was hired. Gerard Mayo was fired. They draft Drake Maye. And for all of that, back in the Super Bowl. Like there's a lot more that happened in between there, Boom. But it's, to me, it's an incredible testament, honestly, to Robert Kraft. And again, we're going to use the word program again, that he's built there, right? The stability, making a gutsy choice to move on from Gerard Mayo after a year, knowing Vrabel was going to be his guy ultimately. What are your thoughts, man? Like, is this the Patriots feel like they've smashed a ton of narratives to get to this point, right? We said easy schedule. We've said, maybe Drake Maye needs more weapons, maybe whatever. What are your thoughts on the Patriots getting back to the mountaintop?
You got to make tough decisions to get there, right? Kraft had to do that with the parting of Belichick. Belichick could still be the head coach if Kraft probably sits back on his heels and doesn't really push for the split, right? Like, and you said moving on from Mayo after year 1, you took some heat for that, from having the guy be your coach in waiting to seeing 17 games and saying, all right, this is enough. Thank you very much. And then going out and making the best hire of that cycle is, it's a testament to Kraft. I saw somebody tweeting yesterday, Jerry Jones is the one in the Hall of Fame. And Robert Kraft is the one who's putting together entire PR decks to get in. Maybe it should be the other way around.
Yeah, and Kraft, they want to touch on the Vrabel hiring too, right? Because I think most people around seeing that Tennessee situation kind of knew that it wasn't on Vrabel, right? Like maybe the acre stale. I mean, I don't know the behind the scenes, the inner workings there, but you move on from Mike Vrabel, and now he's reaches the Super Bowl in his first year with the Patriots, and he's really has them playing crisp football. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, they don't beat themselves. It looks a lot like Belichick in a lot of ways, where you have to almost play the perfect game to beat the Patriots, right? Like, it's one mistake. You saw this for years with the Belichick teams. It's one mistake that you make, and they take advantage of, and it kind of feels the same way with the Patriots. So, but we got to talk real quick. How much stock do you put into this, right? Justin Herbert, that didn't look good. Maybe he was hurt. CJ Stroud in the divisional round. You get to the AFC Championship game and you play Jarrett Stidham. Like, I think at the end of the day, boom, how you get there, it don't matter, right? It's that the fact that you're there. It's what you do with this opportunity. But when you look at the schedule, when you look at the quarterbacks they played, you put any credence in saying the Patriots had an easy path to get here?
No, I wrote about this last week. I think you have to balance it with a little context and nuance. The defenses that they've played have been unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
The offenses that they've played have been terrible. I think it's that simple,
Yep.
honestly. And when you're looking at the playoff stretch and you're not taking into account the regular season, that kind of put them in this position of the number 2 seed, AFC East champions, 14 wins. That doesn't come without playing a last place schedule. That doesn't come without beating up on the Miami Dolphins and, New York Jets.
Yeah.
And, more ricochet shots for you there.
It's fine.
But what do you want them to do? Like, go play at another team on Friday and then come and play the real game on Sunday? Like, I mean, I don't know how much we could really talk about it other than given the context and saying good defenses, bad offenses, Patriots win, good for them. Like, I mean, that's where I kind of like land on all of it.
All right, boom. So we talked in great depth about the AFC Championship game, but obviously there's another part to this tango here, and that's Seattle. And the Seattle Seahawks beat their rivals, NFC West rivals, Los Angeles Rams, in a thriller of a game, man. Let me tell you, this one lived up to the building. It was like somebody had posted on Twitter yesterday, X, whatever you want to call it. It was like watching the Broncos and Patriots game was like watching the JV game before the varsity plays. And I think that's about right, because you see this, it had a little bit of everything. So Sam Darnold, again, I don't want to call him the Ghostbuster yet, because I still think he has to beat the Patriots to put that narrative to bed. But he's a guy
full circle.
Yeah, that's very full circle. And let me tell you something, man. I am going to give him a lot of credit for having the game that he had yesterday in that moment, after everybody saying, oh, well, he's not going to be able to win the big one. He can't do this. So credit to him. But NFC title game, boom. You have any thoughts on McVay, on the Rams, on the way that their season kind of unfolded there? Because I got some thoughts here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear your thoughts. You definitely paid more attention to this one as it was going down. I obviously went back and watched the highlights and broke down the storylines and all that stuff. But I was head down writing pretty significantly during this game. I did obviously watch the end, and what stood out to me on that final 4th down play by the Rams, and I think they should have gone for it because they didn't get the ball back. So we could have that discussion next. But Matthew Stafford drops back, and you could watch it from the end zone angle. You could watch it on the Next Gen Stats Dots screen. You can watch it just general broadcast. There is nobody even close to being open. And before I give Mike McDonald and his staff flowers for scheming it up that way, I want to take a second and ask Sean McVay, what the heck, man? That's like your season on the line, basically, and you call a play in which Matthew Stafford just drops back and there's nobody open in the end zone. It looked like he was throwing an in-breaking route to the defender. I think it was Woolen on that play, maybe. I forget. Or Witherspoon. I can't
Witherspoon,
recall.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like he was throwing to him on the route. It was wild. So that's something that definitely confused me as far as like end of game stuff, as far as season on the line. This is the best you got? Come on.
Yeah.
What about you? What were your main takeaways from this?
I think I have two, boom. Number one, it's that Chris Shula's defense. I feel like again, I've said before, I feel like the Rams had the formula, right? Like, they had a guy who can hit the quarterback. You obviously have the quarterback. You got the guys who can run the ball, which I'll get to in a minute. But it just feels like their defense for the last 2 months just hasn't been it. and you were kind of waiting for them to flip that switch and like get the big stop yesterday, and it just didn't happen. The other thing is the Achilles heel of the Rams, it's not a secret all season, has been special teams, right? And special teams is always kind of an afterthought until a guy drops a punt that leads immediately to a Seahawks score or a Seahawks touchdown. And you say to yourself, well, like how often does that happen, right? But when it's an issue, it's apparent and it kills you, right? Like that's why they say all three phases of the game. It's not all two and a half. So there's that too. I think the other part, Boom, and I've been saying it, can we please, Sean, for the love of God, can we run the ball here and there, please? Like, can we please just run the ball? Like, I understand so much of NFL offenses are based around unpredictability now, right? Like about you don't maybe you pass on first down because everybody's expecting a run, or you pass on a second and short, whatever it is. I don't know that the inner workings of NFL OCs, but unpredictability is a big thing. So you get down to that spot on the fourth down, and like your fourth and goal, fourth and four, whatever it was, from you have an opportunity here, and like, can we run the ball a little bit more? Can we get a run in here? Can we mix in a run, a deceptive run, something, a draw play, something that maybe gets Blake Corum or Kyron Williams in the end zone? Like I don't see, it feels like it really feels to me that so many points throughout this season, it feels like McVay was just leaning on Stafford to play hero ball, to like make the dramatic throw, to make the big throw. And he's obviously capable of all of those things, because you look at the throw that he made to Devontae Adams in the divisional round, unreal throw, right? He still has all the tools. He's still, even some throws yesterday, like he's still that dude, which is great. But can we get yeah, probably the MVP. Can we just run the ball just a little bit? Like in a situation that might call for it, like get a couple dirty yards, get in the end zone, like you're down there. We saw Blake Corum rip off some 11, 12-yard runs in the second half. It's like, what are we doing here? Like let's just lean on the run game a little bit more. But I don't know, maybe that's too rudimentary for the boy genius out there in LA. But those are my biggest thoughts from the game yesterday, I think, from the Rams side. Boom.
Yeah, look, McVay just wasn't his best down the stretch in these playoffs. You look at the Bears game, I feel like his team won in spite of him in a way. And now yesterday, with what you're saying, like clear that there's room for improvement for a guy who is a great head coach and will continue to be a top 5 coach in this league as long as he has a job, in my opinion. But this is what happens with the Shanahan tree. The game management stuff gets away from them. It gets away from them. They get too caught up in the play sheet. And I know that Mike McDonald's calling defense for Seattle, so it's not the best comparison. But this is why I believe staunchly in CEO style head coaches. Maybe I'm just a son of Tom Coughlin in this way, but like. Seriously, there's too much going on where on an NFL sideline in a game where you're trying to juggle these two very important things, and I think it hurts your team in the long run. But do you know who was at his best down the stretch yesterday? Clint Kubiak. You mentioned him earlier in the show. The way that the Seahawks ran their offense pretty aggressively after stopping the Rams on fourth down really impressed me. Kenneth Walker really turned his entire season around, it felt like, with his 55-yard touchdown against the Rams in Seattle in Week 16, that Thursday night game. He was a stud. He's been a stud since then, and I think he's going to be like a major X factor for this team come Super Bowl. So yeah, those are a couple more of my Seahawks takeaways there.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, Boom. I think to the point of, having a guy who calls plays, a head coach who calls plays. Listen, I haven't done the research on this, but just my gut tells me that it takes them a little bit out of the game, right? Like maybe you're not maybe you're not feeling the flow of the game or the momentum, right? I know people don't believe in momentum, but I do. Like watching a game, you can feel when there's a play, Sean Payton, that maybe you say to yourself, well, that's where this game is going to turn, right? And maybe that's just a narrative thing. Maybe that's just a feel thing. I don't know. But maybe it would benefit them from maybe not calling plays, which I know is almost sacrilegious to say when you have everybody loves Matt LaFleur and everybody loves Sean McVay and everybody loves Kyle Shanahan. But to your point, the game management stuff isn't always there with these guys. I don't know why that is. So, I don't know, Boom. Like maybe there's not maybe there's too much there, maybe there's not enough there, but I don't know, just a feel thing from yesterday. Maybe we take our head out of the play sheet and feel how the game is going rather than just trying to chessboard a guy. You know what I mean?
Look, Andy Reid is always going to call the plays explicitly, but they won a couple Super Bowls when Eric Bieniemy had a major hand in that selection. So
yep, and no secret. And look, they're bringing him back. So like, it just goes to show you how much he meant to that team. And Matt Nagy sent packing, unfortunately for him, but like, it just shows you how much Eric Bieniemy meant to that offense, right? And for reasons behind the scenes, reasons of game, whatever it is. So, yeah, I see it. Boom. My last question for you, Boom, before we call it a podcast here. So, I mean, Darnold has put together probably the best performance of his career, given the stakes, given the opponent he was playing. It's probably not easy to play. It's definitely not easy to play against a team three times in the season, right? So, what do you think? Is you have to have more trust in Sam Darnold at this point, even facing an old team, winless against the Patriots in his career. You're gonna hear that a lot. You got to trust Sam Darnold more than Drake Maye in this spot, right?
Ooh, good question. Do I trust Sam Darnold or Drake Maye more in this spot? No, I don't think I don't know who I do, honestly. It's not a guarantee. So I'm gonna back off of that just because Sam Darnold, I'm pretty sure, was leading the league in giveaways this year, entering the playoffs.
I think the number, he has 20 giveaways this year, right? Which is the most that a quarterback has had in a season, Super Bowl quarterback has had since I think Eli Manning in 2007.
Well, yeah, how did that work out for the 2007 New York Giants? No, I was a young lad at the game when Eli threw 5 picks against the Minnesota Vikings, and we were chanting in the crowds for Jared Lorenzen, rest in peace. And then a few months later, Eli's hosting a Super Bowl trophy. Unbelievable. But no, I think I in terms of who I trust more, I think I need more time with it, but I'm not going to come out and say right away that I trust Darnold more than Maye. Maye's had his ball control issues throughout the postseason as well, but he held up pretty well in some pretty terrible conditions on Sunday against the Broncos. So I count that as a nice check for him. But yeah, no, I'm not ready to go there yet. What about you?
Nah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like Darnold's on a special kind of run right now, I think. Like it just feels like the stars are aligning for him. Like, and I know that he didn't play great. He had like 9 touchdowns and 9 picks over the last X amount of games of the season. So he was very middling, right? But you go out and you play the Rams and you have the run that he's on, and you have the support that he has. Like you said, Kenneth Walker's out there now, and the connection with Jackson Smith and Jigba is unbelievable, right? Like, and JSN's a guy that I was slamming the Jets to draft over Will McDonald a couple years ago. So, it all comes back to the Jets, baby. That's just the way it works. So we'll see, man.
On the show, yeah.
On the show.
No, a couple things. JSN, what a player. I remember watching that Rose Bowl a few years ago, and I think anybody watching that could have been like, well, this guy's probably going to be really good. Case in point, here we are. It's arrived. They're using him in the backfield. They're using him in motion. They're using him all over. Would love to see some of that in McVay's offense, which we were talking about earlier. I meant to make that point, and things like that. And then, yeah, major loser for me yesterday is Chris Shula, which you also kind of got at. They got to put some resources into that secondary and in that linebacking unit. I know Nate Landman had a nice season, but not sure how viable of a long-term option he is there. So, yeah, you got to look at those second 2 levels of the Rams defense and make some improvements there for them if they want to get back to the Super Bowl.